Hey, Admiral.
What is it, Rajang?
I hate you.
Oh yeah? Well, I hate you!
Yeah, well, I hate you more.
Oh, well, what are you gonna do about it?
Oh, nothing.
What?
I'm just gonna sit here sulking about it.
Oh, okay, well, I guess I'll do the same.
Ladies, gentlemen, and monsters of all ages, welcome to another list of fun and wonder, but about things that are a little less fun and wondrous, or at least the less fun and wondrous side of what is normally a fantastic mechanic, Turf Wars. Today, my captivating little carnations, I present to you my list of the top 5 worst Turf Wars in Monster Hunter World. And let me just say right off the bat, by the very nature of what they are, every Turf War is at least pretty damn cool, but as with anything, there is a top of the stack and a bottom of the barrel, and the reasoning behind my personal decisions and ranking is that the Turf Wars are either just comparatively anticlimactic as a whole, or for one reason or another do a disservice to one of the involved monsters or their general fighting style. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's begin with
Dishonorable mention. GLAVENUS versus RATHIAN.
And this one is here because, well, it isn't here. One of the greatest battles ever done in a Monster Hunter cutscene, one of the coolest cinematic moments. GLAVENUS avoids a backflip to counter-strike with his tail, literally severing the wing spikes of the Rathian and forcing her to fly away. This right here is the perfect Turf War, and it's not unheard of for Turf Wars to have part breaks like Devil Joe breaking Diablos' horn, so I say that it's absolutely possible. Yet, here we are with a game that has Turf Wars, that has Rathian, and that has GLAVENUS, but it doesn't have a Turf War between the two of them, and to me, that just feels like such a huge missed opportunity.
Number 5.
Well then, I suppose, strictly in the name of her honor, I must now defile the most intimate and womanly segments.
Ebony ODOGARON versus NARGACUGA.
And to be totally honest, this one is sort of interchangeable with a couple others I wouldn't mind having in the 5th slot, but this wound up here just because of how, well, silly it is. Realistically speaking at least, the two monsters meet in a quick exchange of missed attacks before one mounts the other and, well, they roll around, sensually, lovingly, until they decided it's time to split up forever. This one is absolutely not bad. I mean, if you can take it seriously, then it is actually really, really cool. I, however, personally, just cannot.
Unacceptable!
I just laugh every time I see it, and I love it for that reason, but as far as what a Turf War is, and what they intended to do, loving one for being silly isn't necessarily a positive, at least in this situation. Though I guess that comes down to what your criteria really are for a good Turf War. For me, when two monsters who are inherently serious and not silly at all do something silly, it doesn't work.
Number 4.
Somewhere along the line, you changed. You stopped being you. You let people stick a finger in your face and tell you you're no good. And when things got hard, you started looking for something to blame.
BRACHYDIOS versus TIGREX.
BRACHYDIOS shoulder charges the TIGREX. TIGREX knocks him over from above, and they roll a couple of times, and then TIGREX takes a chomp on Brachy's chest before being kicked off. This one is just, well, a pile of disappointment more than anything. First off, BRACHYDIOS, a monster literally capable of killing monsters, shown killing them in a single punch due to his slime, neither punches nor uses his slime in any capacity, and in fact, he doesn't even attempt to. It's not like he doesn't get the opportunity. I mean, he literally attacks the TIGREX with his shoulder. Wrong! And then, of course, TIGREX takes a bite, quote-unquote, out of him, but, well, from all accounts we have, BRACHYDIOS' shell is significantly stronger than TIGREX' teeth or biting ability, so I don't get it. Sure, it does TIGREX some really good justice. I mean, it really shows his relentlessness and his pure strength, pushing an entire BRACHYDIOS over from that angle that he did, but the amount that BRACHYDIOS, as an individual, as a unique creature, just feels ignored here. Makes me want to avoid seeing this one more than actively seeking it out. And yes, I know this is a generalized Turf War used for different brute wyverns, but when that comes at the expense of just not showing any personality of a monster at all, it is by far not worth it in my mind.
Number 3.
Close the tank!
Wait, aren't you even gonna watch them? They could get away.
No.
I'm going to leave them alone and not actually witness them dying. I'm just going to assume it all went to plan. What?
Rathalos versus GLAVENUS.
And I do have this showing with Azure Rathalos just because he happened to be around when I was trying to get it, but trust me, it's all the same turf war regardless. Rathalos dodges what for GLAVENUS is a super wimpy tail swipe, and then just sort of goes in for some classic back clawing. Then GLAVENUS grabs him over his shoulder and just throws him to the ground. Badass?
Wait a minute!
Except after he throws the Rathalos, said Rathalos is squirming on the ground, doing nothing for a ton of time. Like, he full on knocks him over, which brings me to the point of why did GLAVENUS, of all monsters, not take advantage of a downed monster in front of him? I mean, he could even just take a couple of bites at him and I'd be slightly less annoyed. GLAVENUS does do bites, but he doesn't even do that. Not to mention the legitimate tail kill shot a realistic GLAVENUS would have done there. A real GLAVENUS would do to a real Rathalos in that exact situation. It looks pretty nice, the turf war as a whole is pretty well done, but for me, I have to label this one as missed potential. Sure, it is pretty cool as is, but it could have been so much cooler than what we actually got.
Number 2.
Pikachu using Thunder Smash!
Pikachu! Ow, fuck! Oh, God!
FULGUR ANJANATH versus Viper TOBI-KADACHI.
This one is pretty bad, guys. Like, not an execution, don't get me wrong. Technically, this could be how these monsters could fight, but there is sort of an animation mismatch here, as this is the exact same turf war as regular Anjanath and regular TOBI-KADACHI from the base game. And to explain what is happening here in those terms, at the start of the turf war, Tobi quote-unquote electrically charges up, then Anjanath goes to bite him and flinches due to the electricity. Tobi swipes at him with his claw, Anjanath grabs him with his mouth, and then flings him away. Sort of sounds neat, right? Especially the using Tobi's electricity as part of the turf war. Well, Viper TOBI-KADACHI isn't really known for his electricity. I guess you could yada yada this and say something like, oh, well, maybe it is little spiky needle tail or something like that, but this turf war can also happen between regular TOBI-KADACHI and FULGUR ANJANATH, in which there is the clear implication that FULGUR ANJANATH, who is literally resistant to thunder, is full-on flinched, like properly flinched, by a regular TOBI-KADACHI's passive static charge.
What a twist!
There are many places where using the same animation on different monsters of the same skeleton works super well. There's even a number of them that do exist where it is at least passable. There are examples in the game of it simply expanding the content that we have in a way that has worked. I mean, of course, TIGREX, BARROTH, and NARGACUGA have some overlap in their hunting style, so it makes sense, but this one, this specific reuse, to me, just feels incredibly ill thought out, and the only reason that it is at number 2 is because, at least visually speaking, it still looks so much better than
Number 1.
Well, boys. Looks like we got a Mexican standoff.
Guess again. We've got a sniper trained on your position.
Nice try. But I've had an unmanned drone on that sniper's ass this whole time.
BARROTH versus DIABLOS.
And I think after you guys watch this one, my placement of it becomes relatively clear. The two monsters look at each other, size each other up, charge, and Diablos wins. That's it. Don't get me wrong, it's not bad per se, and it absolutely works from an ecological standpoint. I mean, here we are with two monsters who use charging as a main offensive ability, so sure, it makes sense that they would charge at each other. But the execution is just so sad, so short, so empty. I sort of wish that they would miss each other and have to turn around and do it again a couple of times, sort of like knights jousting at a tournament. But I do also understand that BARROTH is a super low tier monster, so making it look like he has even the slightest chance of beating a Diablos would be sort of lore-wise incorrect. But, like, come on. This turf war lasts, like, even less than 5 seconds, it feels like. It doesn't leave my jaw hanging open. It doesn't use some obscure part of their personality, and it just doesn't look good. So while this one does make sense from an ecological standpoint, and I do still totally appreciate it being in the game on the merits of establishing a proper food chain that you can see in action with your own eyes, I do think that it unfortunately holds the title, for me, of worst turf war in the game. Alright everyone, I've been Cotton Dinosaur, and this has been the top 5 worst turf wars in Monster Hunter. Do you agree with my choices? What turf wars do you wish existed that don't? Like if you like the video, subscribe to the notification bell for more, and most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, stay sweet. This is the brand new outro to tell you all the things that you do that we love, so let's start with something simple and say, oh, we love your eyes. When they're watching us play video games, when we make a bunch of jokes that are kinda lame, or when they gaze upon our failures as we try to kill the monsters, or important news about the kingdom Animalia. Rage, Continent, Hollow, we're all here, talking about the things you want to hear, so if you want to be the first to hear, like and subscribe and the bell and we'll cheer. Some of you are patrons even though we are all the noobs and you're the pros. There's nothing we can do to thank you. No, really, there's nothing we could possibly do. Goodbye.